Hi, everybody, and welcome to Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. I'm one of your hosts, Gabby Loren.
And I'm Alie Valerio.
And we have a special guest on the line today. Please welcome Rabbi Teller from Los Angeles.
Hi, guys. So happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Happy. Thank you for joining us on this because obviously it's a crazy time for everybody and we all want some inspiration and something to look forward to every day to start off our day. And so today's topic with Rabbi it's going to be encompassing what is God and, does God exist? For all those people out there that may be questioning faith, especially in times like right now, or if you've questioned it before and you just have never made the connection in your life or are not sure if there is an Almighty. So Rabbi, what's your thoughts on this? And did you ever have a point in your life where you were questioning God?
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Alie, again for the question. So just a little bit of background about me is that I grew up as a Jewish individual. Both parents are Jewish, and I grew up in a pretty secular environment where I did not really keep to many of the traditional Jewish practices, and the exception of maybe lighting Hanukkah candles during the holiday of Hanukkah. I was one of those Jews where, we have Passover, it's coming up, and I really didn't even know that there were 4 cups of wine. We had about a 10-minute Passover Seder. We read a little bit, and that was about it. Had a Reform, pretty not so involved Jewish upbringing until I was 25 years old. I went on an Israel trip for a 10-day Israel trip with a bunch of young professionals, and it was the first time in Israel, and I had this feeling of that there has got to be something bigger in this world other than myself. There were too many coincidences, too many things, personal stories in my life that just didn't make sense. That how could it be that if I'm in control, theoretically, of so many things in my life, and I try to control every aspect of my life, why were there then certain things in my life that I couldn't control? So I guess the typical question is, why do bad things happen to good people? So I really did think of myself, I'm a good person. Why did my parents get a divorce when I was 2 years old? Why was there cancer in my family? Why was there addiction in my family? These were all things that were out of my control. And I was trying to control my life as much as I could, but I just found that there were so many things that were out of my control, and I really couldn't explain it. And then at 25 years old, I kind of had this like eye-opening epiphany realization when I was in Israel that, oh my gosh, there's got to be something bigger in this world it's meant to be that I'm meant to go through these critical things in my life for a bigger picture, for a purpose, for something that there's, an ultimate potential that my English name is Gavin, my Hebrew name is Mordechai, Gavin Mordechai Teller, I'm supposed to go through. And once I started to have that epiphany and realization that, oh my gosh, nothing is by chance, everything is for a reason, then my life just started like opening up. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, there is a God in this world. I'm supposed to have a relationship with him, he or she, or whatever this power is. And when I have this relationship with God, then my life will be more fulfilling, will be more open, there'll be more happiness, there'll be more opportunity that will come my way, and things won't be so in the dark for me. And so that happened in the year 2005. I was 24 years old. You guys can do the math, how old I am now. So I've been living with this concept and still working with this concept of God for the last 14 years. And like any relationship that you have, it doesn't come overnight. It takes work, it takes practice, it takes acknowledgement. And the more you work on it, you realize, oh my gosh, how much more fulfilling the relationship can become. So to answer your question, I wasn't raised this way. It was something that I had this eye-opening experience when I was 24 years old, and I've now been a calling card member of God for the last 14 years, and I'm still working on it.
Wow. It's amazing.
So if you have any more questions, you feel I'm happy to answer.
I have a question. What inspired you like to go to Israel? Was this a birthright trip? If you were not born super like religious, why did you went to Israel with a group? Can you explain like how you got there?
So, I mean, again, I don't know how candid of a conversation we should be, but again, you know, we're talking amongst friends. My grandparents actually, my grandparents left their countries of origin during the time of the Holocaust. My grandfather was born in Germany. My grandmother was born in Bulgaria, and they got out in time. Um, but there were many of our ancestors that didn't get out in time from their countries of origin and sadly passed away at the time of the Holocaust. My grandparents actually moved to, which was then Palestine, and were actually in the state of Israel in 1948 when it became the state of Israel. My dad was born in Israel in 1950, and they moved to the States when he was a baby. I always knew that I had this affinity to our country called Israel. And I knew that this is where Jews lived and this is where Jews were from. And I always knew that I needed to check out my parents' homeland and understanding like this is where the Jewish people come from. Even though at the time I wasn't religious, that was something that really captivated me in knowing that I needed to go see where the Jewish people, what we call our homeland. So yes, I'm giving you the PG answer. There is a deeper answer, but not for this time, for another time. There was also something personally that I was going through at that time that called me and said I really should check out Israel. So I went.
Wow. Do you feel like once you were in Israel, like that was the turning point for you, and this is now where you were able to commit to maybe investigating more and seeing if there is more of a
So
connection you
here's
could have with God?
yes. So here's the ultimate. Um, at the time, I was dating somebody actually. So I will say that I was dating somebody who wasn't within my faith, and it this person that I was dating asked me if I wanted to get married, and it was a critical turning point at that point because I said, you know what, my grandparents left their countries of origin for being who they are as individuals, being Jewish, and I really felt like I needed to do my homework and look into what it was to be a Jew, and to understand what it really meant to be Jewish. So to answer your question, Alie, this was another very powerful draw for me to go to Israel because I felt like Israel was going to be the place that I was going to be able to help like a flame or ignite or spark my desire to want to learn more about Judaism. So if in fact I was going to be finding a spouse, what values were the spouse and I going to espouse with our family? So I felt like it was really important for me before I decided to get married that I learned what it was to be a Jew and what it was to be Jewish. So that was the real reasoning behind why I decided to go to Israel. To
I'm
answer
glad
the full question.
you expanded upon that because I think that's really relatable to our listeners and where they're going through is that, you know, I wasn't raised super religious. Gabby, you weren't raised religious either. And a lot of Jews in America and all around the world aren't religious, even in Israel. So what would you say for someone who wasn't raised religious, who wants to become more curious about Judaism and learn more? Where would you send them to start learning?
Well, great question, Alie. Being that right now in the state of the coronavirus COVID-19 era that we are in right now, sadly, there's not many people that are traveling to Israel. You know, I would say that would be first and foremost a great place to start, either on a birthright trip or any of these organized trips. That would be a great place to start. But however, being that we're not traveling as much these days, the opportunity to learn on social media, online, to hear a class, to get some content on Jewish concepts are like more than ever before. You can just blink your eye, look here, look there, look here, look there. Everybody is teaching a class on Judaism. Everybody's teaching a class on why am I Jewish, or why is there a God, or what does this mean, or what does that mean. You can literally start anywhere. I would recommend, if you're listening to this for the first time, if you have a friend who has maybe been more involved Jewishly, talk to them and say, hey, Alie, or hey, Gabby, I know that you went on this cool, you're involved with this cool rabbi. His name might be Rabbi Teller. You know, I'd love to hear maybe one of his classes, or go to one of his Facebook Lives. How do I go about that? And you know what? Your friends are usually the good connecting point for you. So I would say that would be a good opportunity for everybody who's listening, who's
For
just
sure.
starting off. And, you know, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It could be, you know, you don't have to solve all the questions or all your answers, get all your answers overnight. Just like going to the gym. I know Alie and Gabby are both very active, and, you know, Alie is a trainer, and Gabby, you know, she's all into dance and everything like that. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. You just got to get up, walk for 10 minutes, walk for 15 minutes, get that little piece of nugget of wisdom in. And that's how you start, like anything.
Yeah, it's like exercising a muscle a little bit, right?
And
Exactly.
I think you're alluding to too with like your relationship with God. It's something that you're working on every day, right? You don't just say, okay, cool, I have a relationship now.
Right. So to go with your point, I think what the class is like, I think maybe both of you asked me this question, like, so what does it mean to have faith in God? Like, most of us, I assume, when we talk about faith, we have this idea that faith means like it's blind. It means like I'm meant to believe in this imaginary thing that's kind of like this figure in heaven, and have this blind faith that it's just there. And I think most of us who are raised that way, we say, oh my gosh, like I have to believe in this figure up in heaven. Well, how can I believe in this figure up in heaven when I can't touch them or I can't see them? Like the same way I can see you on the screen right now, I can't see this God up in heaven. So the very simple idea of what does it mean to have a faith in God, or the Hebrew word for that means emunah. Emunah means to have clarity that there is actually a God in our life. How do I do that if I physically can't touch you? If I physically can't touch God, how do I have that clarity? So our sages, the wise people in Judaism, have told us what's the best way of having a faith in God is that you have to look at all the blessings, all the wonderful things that you have in your day-to-day life. Once we are actually able to acknowledge and see for ourselves all the beautiful miracles that happen to ourselves on a day-to-day life, that's in fact how you have faith in God. So it's not blind. When I get to see the fact that I open my eyes in the morning, the fact that I get to wake up to 3 children, and the fact that I get to wake up to a wife with 3 kids, the fact that I'm able to, you know, taste the coffee that I drink, or, you know, see the beautiful sunrise, or smell the beautiful roses. The fact that I'm able to see all the amazing things that happen in my life on a minute-to-minute, second-to-second basis, that's, like you said, working out. When I am able to do that and have gratitude and see all the amazing things that happen on a day-to-day, second-to-second basis, that's how I strengthen my faith in God. And it's very easy. So yes, having faith in God, it just doesn't one day come. I have blind faith. It takes, as I said, 14 years to get to where I'm at right now, to know and have knowledge that there is a God in my life. Because why would there not be a God in my life? You know, yes, there's COVID-19 right now. Yes, there's a coronavirus. And you know what? These are all very painful things that are happening in some of our lives right now. But at the same time, I can choose my outlook. I can choose how I want to see the world. I can choose to be a positive individual. I can choose to want to see God in my life. I can choose to want to have faith, to know that, you know what, even though I might be having a hard time right this second, I know, because I know that God got me up this morning, got me up last morning, got me up the day before, that must be a blessing. There's a reason why I'm awake right now. So, you know what, I have complete faith that he's going to get me out of this COVID-19 era that we're in right now, and I'm going to be able to recover. I just have to choose to have that relationship with God. So, on a very simple understanding, that's how Jews typically believe in this idea of faith in God, is to really just see all the amazing things that God does for me on a day-to-day basis.
But now, what if you're dealing with somebody who is not having an optimistic outlook on life? They're in a negative headspace and they feel like they're a victim of everything that's going on around them. What would you say to that person, and how to have faith and trust in the process and trust in God?
Or they've never believed in anything either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so again, they you know, either one, they've had a lot of hardship, that's one, and two, they've never believed in anything at all. So that's a very tough case, and I'm going to acknowledge everybody, you know, because we've all had to go through that. We've all had to have hardship in our life, and we've all had to just say, you know what, I don't see it. So like anything in life, the person who has never been to the gym, just to reiterate that point, to answer your question, you know, a person has never been athletic, or the person has never gone to a gym the day in their life. So you're right. The first time that they lift a weight, or the first time they go on an elliptical, or the first time that they're training for a marathon, they're going to be huffing and puffing. They're going to be hating you. They're going to be saying, you know what? I hate my life. Please, you know what? I can't see any blessing in this whatsoever, because this is so painful. You mean to tell me I have to actually look at myself right now and acknowledge that I'm going through hardship, I'm fat, I'm weak, I'm scrawny, I'm this, I'm that? That's very hard to do. So when the person can actually look at themselves and say, you know what? I'm not perfect. I have flaws. I have maybe some difficulties in my life. And you know what? How did you get to those difficulties? How is it that those things are that way in your life? So I'll have you know that everybody in this world, for the people who have never believed in God or have never, we all have problems. We all have issues. We all have things in our life that we're all struggling with on a day-to-day basis. So once you can come to the grips and say, you know what? I'm okay. I'm normal. I'm a human being. Once, you know, I'm not a 12-step program guru, but it's something that we all deal with. Once we acknowledge, you know what, I'm human, I have issues, I have difficulties, and you know what, I'm not really in control of anything. The minute once we admit that to ourselves, that we're really not in control of anything, that's when true joy starts happening. You don't have to fight as much. You don't have to fight as much. You don't have to be in hardship. And then that's when you're able to receive and accept the blessing that will come your way. So once I realized, you know, in my own personal life, that I didn't have to fight the fact that I'm a child of a divorce, or there was addiction in my family, or there was cancer in my family, and I realized, you know what? I see that in order for me to be the best person I can be, I need to accept the reality of that situation. The minute I was able to accept the reality of that situation, then everything that came from that point onward was positive. I wasn't blaming anybody, because we're so busy trying to blame. You put me in that situation. You gave me this situation. You gave me these looks. You this. The minute we blame everybody else, that means we're not taking responsibility for the reality that I'm in right here, right now. So the whole point of where I'm trying to get to in my life is being responsible, that on some level I can control my outlook in life. Yes, there are certain things that I can't control, i.e. who I'm born to, what country I'm from, but I can control from every step from this point onward which direction or which outlook or which attitude I want to have from this point onward. So the minute you accept your reality of the things you can't control, yeah, I accept it. But from this point onward, yeah, I am, that scene from 8 Mile, from B Rabbit or whatever his name is. He said, yeah, I was born in a trailer park. I did shoot myself in the foot, or my friend did shoot himself in the foot. Yeah, I am this. Yeah, I do have a white trash mom. Yeah, all these things, the minute he accepted who he was, that's when he was able to flourish and be like, but I know something you don't know, and then he called the other dude out because he said, you know what? I'm not going to let you control who I am. I accept who I am. But you know what? From this point onward, I'm going to be the best rapper out there. I'm going to be the best rabbi out there. I'm going to be the best personal trainer out there. Because you know what? You accept it. And then you move on. And then you take everything in a positive light from that point onward.
Woo! Preach. I love it. How do you feel like your relationship to God has improved your life?
It's given me pleasure, but it's given me meaning. It's given me grounding. I'm able to be grounded knowing that I have a guidebook that I can follow every day. And that guidebook that I follow, it's called the Torah, or the Old Testament. And there are 613 opportunities that I get to follow on a day-to-day basis, knowing that, like, if I have to communicate with you, Alie, I have to communicate with you verbally. And for us to understand one another, we have to have proper communication. And I have to understand what you mean, and you have to understand what I mean. So for me to have a relationship with my Creator, my God, He put out this opportunity called this book called the Torah. And that's His communication to me. So if I can learn His language, I keep on saying His, amorphous language of God, if I can learn the language of God and understand what makes God tick, then naturally I'm going to have more of an appreciation for God. So by me studying His words, the 613 opportunities that I could get to know God, therefore my relationship will be a little bit more fulfilling, and I'll have more meaning, and I'll naturally feel a little bit more grounded. And things aren't just not all by chance. Things are for a purpose. So when I wake up in the morning and I do one of my customary things, I know, or I believe, that this will give me direction in my day, that I'm not just putting my finger up in the air and wondering where the heck I'm going. I'm knowing that, like, I have something that's keeping me grounded to connect to something that's a little bit bigger than myself.
It's interesting too, because they say that, especially in times like these, having a routine is important, and you have a routine 365 days a year. So would you say that has helped grow your connection to God? And should we take this time right now at home to create that routine?
100%. Like, I'm not here to preach Judaism. I'm really not here to preach Judaism. It happens to be that I'm Jewish. So, I was able to find joy in Judaism and grounding. But right now, I mean, like, take it for I have 3 kids at the house right now. I'm on my cell phone right now. This is the only device that I can be on right now, is talking to you, is from my cell phone. This kid is on a Zoom class in this room. The other kid is on a Zoom class in that room. My other kid is on her iPad in a Zoom class. Is that we all need structure. Without structure in our lives, we're going to be lost. We all need to have a routine. We all need to have logistics. So what? You're 18 years old, you're 25 years old, you're 35 years old. Without a routine, you're going to flounder, because you're not going to know, again, do I go right? Do I go left? Do I go up? Do I go down? This routine helps you know that, you know what, I have something to look forward to. There are 3 times in my day that I can talk to God. I can talk to God anytime I want, but there's formal prayer that I can talk to God anytime I want, and say something very specific, very catered to what it is that I need as being part of the Jewish people. You know, there's structure that when I eat certain types of food, it's going to help me spiritually when I have this kind of food. These are things that I've aspired and I've put belief into. So, you know, I would recommend that all of you not just be aimlessly around your home right now, not having any structure, because you are going to go crazy. So right now is the time to work on yourself, work on a structure, work on logistics, work on a personal brand, make it happen.
Put your hand up if you're going crazy.
Well, I think pretty good. Are you going crazy?
I'm just kidding. I mean, I think I have moments, but then I bring it back with things like this.
What are 3 steps that you think someone could take? Let's say they're not specifically religious, but they want to start learning more about Judaism and God. What are 3 steps that someone could take in order to begin that process?
Again, there are many different avenues. Number 1, don't feel shy to ask a question. You know, we all, it's okay to be humble. You know, it's okay to just like come out and say, I have a question. The person who is too intimidated to ask a question won't learn anything. So number 1, ask a question. Just go and ask a question and say, can you explain this to me? Or can you tell me where I need to go? So number 1 is ask a question. Number 2 is commit to a schedule. Commit to a schedule. You know, you don't need to solve it overnight. Do something little. Commit to a schedule. Okay, so number 1, ask the question. Number 2 is commit to a schedule. And number 3 is actually do it. Just do it. Get up and do it. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be overnight. Just do something little. And that's the most important thing. I'm realizing that here's the thing, we almost might get saved by the bell. This meeting, it says that we're almost out of time. And also
Gave me more time.
Here's the thing, my phone only has 1% left on it and it's going to die. So here's the thing. Oh no is right. We're going to die. So here's the thing. I don't know what to do with you right now. This is a big cliffhanger. So Gabby and Alie, we might have to sign off. What are we going to do?
We're going to have to reschedule you for another one.
Okay. So hopefully this will be a smaller part 1. And hopefully, you know, this was good. You know what? We're going to leave people wanting more. Okay. And that's it. We should always leave people asking more questions. So with that, I say to you, this has been real. Tune in. I'm not going to say it, but I'd love to come back for a part 2. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. And then Alie, stay on because we'll discuss this a little bit further.
And Rabbi, could you leave us one question or like something that people could ponder, or like homework for someone who's wanting to explore God a little bit more? I know you just gave thoughts, but one piece of homework. One piece of homework.
Figure out what is your greater purpose in the world. I know has nothing to do with God, but what's your greater purpose in the world? And then I will tie that back in to our God question next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi T. You're amazing.
Okay, and if you guys want to follow him, you could definitely connect on social media at JHUB LA. They're all over the place, Instagram and Facebook. Now, Alie, I wanted to talk about something with you specifically that we could have tied in earlier when Rabbi first started speaking. But Wayne Dyer has this amazing quote where he talks about 2 twins being in the womb. And it's kind of like an analogy or maybe even a metaphor to that belief in God when you can't see, touch, or necessarily even sometimes feel that he is present. So I'm going to read it and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So it's actually a parable. It's called 2 Babies Talking in the Womb from Your Sacred Self by Dr. Wayne Dyer. In a mother's womb were 2 babies. The first baby asked the other, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" The second baby replied, "Why, of course. There has to be something after delivery. Maybe we are here to prepare ourselves for what we will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There is no life after delivery. What would that life be?" I don't know, but there will be more light than here. Maybe we will walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. The doubting baby laughed. This is absurd. Walking is impossible, and eat with our mouths? Ridiculous. The umbilical cord supplies nutrition. Life after delivery is to be excluded. The umbilical cord is too short. The second baby held his ground. I think there is something, and maybe it's different than it is here. The first baby replied, no one has ever come back from there. Delivery is the end of life, and in the afterlife, it is nothing but darkness and anxiety, and it takes us nowhere. Well, I don't know, said the twin, but certainly we will see Mother, and she will take care of us. Mother? The first baby coughed. You believe in Mother? Where is she now? The second baby calmly and patiently tried to explain. She is all around us. It is in her that we live. Without her, there would not be this world. Ha, I don't see her, so it's only logical that she doesn't exist. To which the other replied, sometimes when you're in silence, you can hear her. You can perceive her. I believe there is a reality after delivery, and we are here to prepare ourselves for that reality when it comes. What do you think about
Wow. Wow.
the
Thank
mic?
you for sharing that. Mic drop, Wing Dagger. Oh my God, I'm obsessed. That's amazing, Gabby. Wow. I was just thinking how reality after delivery too is rad, like RAD.
That's awesome.
That's rad. Wow. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, even though you can't see something, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You're just expanding your consciousness and moving into like a different phase in life. Like, so that's amazing. It's like a fish in water, right? The fish doesn't know that it's swimming until it jumps out of the water, and it's just in its bowl. What is your connection to God? Like, what does that mean for you?
That's so interesting. I've always felt super connected since I was a kid. Something that I can't even explain. I think I was just born intuitive. I think as I've gotten older, it's become harder to connect. And I'm not surprised by that, because they say when you're younger, you have like less inhibitions, like less blockages. You build up all these things as you go through life and trauma and whatever that kind of push that connection a little bit away if you don't work on it. So I definitely feel like I still have the intuitive qualities, but my connection now is that I just have amuna, like have amuna, have hope, and work on it, and talk to God when you can, and pray. There's times in my life where I don't feel as connected, but I will tell you, just like we discussed in, I think it was the last episode we did, going to Israel completely turned that around for me. Even in times where I felt like I haven't heard from him in a while, I feel like I'm asking these questions or like praying about something, and I'm not like receiving an answer or like an easy response, and that answer isn't necessarily auditory. It's something that you see manifest in your life. And when I went to Israel this summer, I saw connections and things manifest. But sometimes when we're pulled away from like the holy place and the holy sites, we may feel a little bit more disconnected, and you may just feel disconnected because you don't feel like you have that connection in general. So the biggest thing I think is to be grateful for all the things in your life, good and bad. Talk about it and pray about it, and visualize it and manifest it. And then that's how you'll see proof of God. What about you?
I love that. It's interesting. I was talking to my friend yesterday who was born Catholic and very, very religious, and now he's not religious. And I was talking about my connection to Judaism and how I've become more religious, but I'm still very spiritual. But like what you were saying too, is like when you go to Israel, you feel this big connection to God, and when you leave, it's kind of harder to maintain it. And I was even thinking about how, like with COVID-19, how I work in fitness. Like I love going to the gym, and now I can't go to the gym, so I have to create my own gym at home. I think that's the same thing as your connection with God, is that God is everywhere. God is everywhere and everything, and no matter where you go, like there you are, and there God is, because God is like an infinite energy and an infinite source. So it's up to you to work on your hisbodedut, which is like your conversation with God. And like, that's what Rabbi Teller is talking about. 3 times a day, he does his hisbodedut, which is like talking to God. And it's like, you have to continue that relationship no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say for like our friends who are not religious, that's totally fine. But start with something super simple in the morning, like what we said with our last week's podcast, is that wake up and have gratitude. Like what Rabbi Teller said, like, you think, how did any of this get here? You think it just appeared here? Like, it's a gift. It's a gift from God. And that is knowing that God is present, because you see like the trees and the ocean and like the skies, like that has to be something that's not just
Here.
physics. Like,
yeah.
Like, why is it here? There's got to be a bigger reason, and it has to be something bigger, like maybe like God.
Totally. I think that was so well said. It's really unbelievable when you think about it. But going back to that parable, it's the same idea. You don't necessarily have to understand it. You don't have to have the answers now or just yet. It is having that emunah and that faith that it is there. And you can, in a way, feel it when you are connected. You can, in a way, hear it when you talk and acknowledge it. It may not be something that can be explained by physics, but it's like something that connects to your soul instead, I think.
Exactly. That's what we talk a lot about in Judaism too, is like your neshama is your soul. And like Jewish people have a Jewish soul. So when you read something or hear something and you're like, wow, that resonates with me, that's because your soul is like vibrating. It's resonating with something, right? So find what feeds your soul. Maybe for you and I too, that's like dancing and moving and like fitness, but it's also like having these conversations about God and the universe. Like that Wayne Dyer passage is so beautiful. I'm so glad you read that, because it's like, it's all about shifting our perspective from thinking so like in the box, and then start to think more outside of ourselves. Like, what is outside of ourselves? You know, how did we get here? What is this? Is there life after the, what did you say, rad?
You said rad.
What is it called? It's reality after delivery.
Reality after delivery, yeah.
What is this delivery? So fascinating. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's truly beautiful. And I don't think you necessarily have to, it doesn't have to be a physical experience in the sense of physics, like you mentioned. If you resonate with it with your soul, like I think you find God in the things that you're grateful for. Like in the moments where you're like, wow, I have so much gratitude for being here right now. Or wow, I have so much gratitude for this conversation we're having. And those little feats, those little moments are proof of God to me. Like that's how I connect to God. It's not necessarily like, oh, something magically appeared in my life and that was God necessarily. But like these little moments that I can be grateful for is proof of God to me, you know, because it's like even amongst all the chaos happening in the world, like we could have this conversation, sit here and connect as humans and do something that's greater than ourselves. And that's proof of God.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Hashem.
I knew you were going to say that next.
Yes, I had to say it.
Got to get it in there at least once.
What do you think is something that would be for our listeners to do who are not feeling connected to God? Like, what is one thing that you do every day to feel connected to God?
I think before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning, you can have a conversation. And then I'll give you 3 things. My second thing would be to kind of following Rabbi's lead, you know, explore other opportunities around you, talk to somebody who is connected like a rabbi. Also, I would say look into, because we have social media and this is what's prevalent right now and something we can utilize from home. Look into the app Torah Anytime, because you can listen to lectures on there from different rabbis from all over the world, some better than others. But if you're looking for proof of God, like look up that topic when you're searching that app and see who's talking about it. You can even go on YouTube and look for a conversation about it, like where we're going to post this podcast. And then Gedalia Fenster, our favorite, always doing inspirational podcasts and YouTube videos. So I think just like finding resourceful content that is going to hopefully like lead to a change in perspective or help encourage you to see and perceive things a little bit differently than you were prior.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I completely agree. I mean, for me, like I was always surrounded by Jewish people, but not necessarily they were practicing. It wasn't until I started working like the Pico area where everyone was like Orthodox, where I was like, I started having Orthodox friends. So I think the most important thing is to get connected to people who are connected to God. And like what Rabbi Teller said is like, get curious, like ask questions. That's one of my favorite things about being Jewish is that it's not just like, this is what it is. It's like, you get to actually ask like, why is that so? Like, why is there God? Why? Who is Moses? Who is Abraham? Why should I believe in any of this? Like Judaism encourages that. So that's what I love about it. So I would say one of my friends who connected me to a Shabbat dinner, who connected me to my client, who connected to me to my business partner, and they're all Jewish. It's being Jewish is all about connection. So find a friend who's connected, hang out with them. I would go to a Shabbat dinner. That's what really got me hooked into Judaism is Shabbat.
Definitely.
And once we get out of COVID, go to Israel. Look at local organizations that are doing Israel trips. Look up Birthright. I know they just like expanded it too, so they have different age groups now. It used to only be until like 27. Now it's till like 34, I think. So look up different trips that are happening maybe for next year. And like what Gabby said, go to Torah anytime. Start listening to speeches. Listen to our podcast, listen to Gedalia Fenster, tune into Rabbi Teller, like he's doing these morning coffee talks, but find what resonates with you because there are so many different levels of Judaism that you can just really start piece by piece and don't judge yourself. Like you're not going to be Orthodox overnight. In fact, anyone who's Orthodox wouldn't even suggest that you do that, but like find a relationship that works for you. Like for me, going to Shabbat every week works, listening to Gedalia, tuning into Torah, doing our podcast, like this is all working for me. So, and this helps me feel connected to God and to my higher purpose.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And they also say that you are so similar to the first 5 people that you are connected to in your life, like the 5 closest people in your life, right? So that's exactly what you're saying is like find people that are connected. So you do that and you ultimately will become connected regardless because of the energy around you.
Absolutely. Birds of a feather.
I love it. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on, Alie, before we close out today?
I think that's pretty much it. It's just that, this is a relationship. It's like working out. It's like any relationship you have in your life. Like you can't expect to become super Jewish or super religious. Like don't take on everything at once. Like start with reading a book, talk to a friend, go to a Shabbat dinner, like be curious and find what resonates with you. And like, if you don't believe in God, that's fine. Like do whatever you need to do, but get curious. Like as Jewish people, we were born with this birthright and we have a history that's incredible. So start exploring what that means to you because you aren't here by accident. You're here because of a destined purpose. We're like, 0.04% of the world's population and rule a lot of the world. There's a reason why Jewish people exist. So get curious and get connected.
Right. And if you're listening and you're not Jewish per se, going back to what Rabbi had said, you woke up in the morning, you were born, you have a purpose every single day that you wake up. So keep that in mind. And whether you need to get involved in, more events, be around more people that are connected, go to non-denominational church if you feel like you just want to ease your way in. That's a great way to do it. So I think this has been a very productive podcast episode. And if you guys at home are listening and you have any questions for our follow-up with Rabbi Teller, or in general, you have any questions about this topic that we covered today, please let us know so we can get those questions answered to the best of our ability next time.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Love.
Your favorite Jewish girls, your two favorite Jewish girls. We'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. So awesome breaking bread with you.
Yes. Love it. Thank you so much, Alie.
Bye, babe.
Peace.